Money works best in stable systems. When markets are functioning, supply is consistent, and trust is intact. Money solves problems quickly. You need something, you buy it. Simple. But when systems become unstable, money starts losing its power. Not immediately. But gradually, because money only works when there is supply available. Sellers willing to trade systems that support transactions remove or weaken any of those, and money becomes less useful. Now here's the key shift. Value doesn't disappear. It changes form. What people want and what they're willing to trade for starts to evolve, and that evolution happens faster than most expect, because under pressure, people don't care about price. They care about immediate function. What solves a problem right now? What reduces risk? What increases control? Now think about this. If a system slows down or breaks, what matters more? A number in a bank account or something you can use instantly? That's where the hierarchy changes. Now here's what most people misunderstand. They think value is fixed, that certain things will always be worth more than others. But value is situational. It depends on conditions. And when conditions change. So, does importance. Now here's the pattern. As stability decreases, practical items increase in value, skills increase in value, access increases in value. And money starts moving to the background. Not useless, but no longer dominant. Now here's why this matters. Because preparation is not just about having resources. It's about understanding what retains value under pressure, what still works when systems don't. Now here's the deeper insight. The things that become more valuable than money are not rare. They're often simple, overlooked, available early, but ignored until they become hard to get. And by the time they're hard to get, they're no longer affordable in the traditional sense. Because now people are trading differently. Now, understand this. Money is a tool of convenience. But in unstable conditions, convenience disappears. And function takes its place. Item 1. Clean, drinkable water. When systems are stable, water is cheap. Accessible, abundant, easy to ignore. You turn a tap, and it's there. So people don't think about its value, but remove that system, and everything changes instantly, because water is not optional. It's immediate. You can delay many things. You cannot delay hydration. Now here's what happens when access becomes uncertain. People stop thinking in prices. They start thinking in necessity. How much do I have? How long will it last? Where can I get more? And that shift changes value completely. Now water is not a commodity. It's a priority. Now here's the key detail. Not all water is usable. Availability doesn't mean safety. So clean, drinkable water becomes even more valuable than raw access, because unsafe water creates risk instead of solving a problem. Now here's the deeper issue. Without reliable water, everything else becomes harder. Food preparation, hygiene, energy levels, basic health. So, water doesn't just solve one problem. It supports multiple systems at once. That multiplies its value. Now consider this. In stable conditions, money can buy water easily, but in unstable conditions, even large amounts of money may not secure it, because supply becomes limited. And when supply is limited, value shifts from price to availability. Now here's why people underestimate this. Because water is always there until it isn't, and that constant availability hides its importance. Now here's the insight. The more essential something is, the faster its value rises when access drops, and water sits at the top of that list. Now here's where the shift becomes clear. People who have water have options. People who don't have urgency. And urgency always pays more than planning. That's why in unstable conditions, clean water becomes more valuable than money, because it solves a problem money no longer can. Item 2. Reliable information in stable times. Information is everywhere. News feeds, social media, notifications, live updates. So it feels cheap. Almost endless. But when systems become unstable, information stops being abundant. And more importantly, it stops being reliable. Now here's what changes. It's no longer about how much information you have. It's about whether you can trust it. Because wrong information is worse than no information. It leads to bad decisions. wasted effort and unnecessary. Risk. Now here's the shift in uncertainty. People don't lack information. They lack clarity. Multiple sources start giving different versions of the same situation. Delayed updates, conflicting reports, incomplete details, and suddenly, everything becomes harder to interpret. Now here's the key issue when information becomes unclear. Decision-making slows down. People hesitate. They repeat actions. They second-guess everything. And hesitation under pressure has a cost. Now here's the deeper reality. Accurate information allows timing. You know when to act. You know when to wait. Without it, every decision becomes guesswork. And guesswork increases mistakes. Now consider this. Money cannot fix confusion. You can't buy certainty if systems are broken or communication is unreliable. But reliable information, even simple, verified understanding of what's happening nearby, becomes extremely valuable. Now here's why. Because it reduces uncertainty, and reducing uncertainty is more important than increasing resources in many situations. Now here's the insight. People don't just react to events, they react to what they believe is happening, and belief is shaped by information. That's why misinformation spreads faster than truth in unstable environments, because it triggers faster reactions. Now here's where value shifts. Clear, accurate, timely information becomes something people rely on more than money. Because it guides every other decision. What to do, where to go, what to avoid. Without it, even basic resources become harder to use effectively. So in uncertain conditions, information is not just knowledge. It is direction. And direction is more valuable than currency when the path is unclear. Item 3. Basic medical supplies in normal life. Medicine feels routine. You get a headache, you take something, a cut happens, you clean it and move on. It's simple, affordable, and always available. So people don't treat it as high value. But that changes quickly when systems become unstable, because small health issues don't stay small for long when conditions are harder to manage. Now here's the shift. Minor problems become disruptive. A simple infection becomes harder to treat. Fever becomes more draining. Small injuries take longer to recover. And once that happens, basic medical supplies stop being optional. They become essential. Now here's the key issue. You can delay many needs in life, but you cannot delay health problems. They continue regardless of circumstances. Now consider this. In unstable conditions, access to pharmacies or professional care may be limited, delayed, or inconsistent. So people rely more on what they already have. And that's where value changes. Now here's what becomes important. Pain relief, antiseptics, bandages, fever control, basic antibiotics, where applicable, not advanced treatment. Just simple stabilization, because stabilization prevents escalation. Now here's the deeper insight. Medical supplies don't just treat problems. They reduce risk of things getting worse. And that makes them more valuable than money in the moment, because money cannot stop a condition from progressing, but a basic medical item can. Now here's the pattern. When uncertainty increases, health becomes harder to manage. Stress increases physical strain. Environment becomes less controlled. Recovery becomes slower. And all of that increases demand for basic care items. Now here's where value shifts. People who have medical supplies can manage problems early. People who don't wait until problems grow. And waiting increases cost in every form: time, energy, and outcome. Now here's the insight. Medical supplies are not valuable because they are rare. They are valuable because they prevent small problems from becoming larger ones. And in unstable conditions, prevention is worth more than reaction. That's why basic medical supplies often become more valuable than money itself, because money can't stop pain, but timely treatment can reduce it before it spreads. Item 4. Portable light sources. Light feels normal until it's gone. In everyday life, it's automatic: flipping a switch, unlocking a phone screen, lighting a room instantly. So people don't think of light as something valuable. It's just there. But when systems become unstable and electricity is unreliable or gone, light changes category completely. It stops being background utility. It becomes control. Now here's what happens. Once darkness becomes unpredictable, people begin to notice how dependent they are on visibility. Simple tasks become harder. Moving safely, finding items, navigating spaces, even basic comfort, and without light, everything slows down. Now here's the key shift. You don't just lose illumination, you lose confidence in movement, because darkness increases uncertainty, and uncertainty increases hesitation. Now here's where portable light sources become critical. They restore a small but powerful sense of control. A flashlight, a lamp, even low-powered backup lighting. They don't just brighten a space. They reduce risk. Now consider this. In stable conditions, light is infinite and cheap, but in unstable conditions, every source of light becomes limited by battery life, charging availability of replacements, and that limitation immediately increases value. Now, here's the deeper insight. Light affects behavior. People move differently in darkness versus light. With light, decisions are faster and more confident. Without it, people slow down and avoid unnecessary movement. That means light doesn't just help visibility. It restores efficiency. Now here's the pattern. As instability increases, night becomes more significant. And night without reliable lighting becomes a barrier, not just a time of day. Restriction. Now here's why this becomes more valuable than money. Because money cannot replace visibility in real time. You can't buy immediate safety in darkness if systems are down or supply is limited, but a working light source provides immediate function. It changes how you interact with your environment instantly. Now here's the insight. Portable light is not about comfort. It's about reducing uncertainty in movement and action, and anything that reduces uncertainty becomes more valuable than currency when conditions are unstable, because in those moments, knowing where you are going safely matters more than what you can afford. Item 5. Fuel and mobility access in normal conditions. Fuel is just another expense. You think about price per liter, distance per trip, and fuel efficiency. It's a budgeting factor, not a survival factor. But when systems become unstable, fuel changes category completely. It stops being about cost and starts being about movement itself. Now here's what happens. When supply chains are uncertain, people begin thinking differently about distance. Even short travel becomes strategic. Not every trip is worth it anymore. And that's where fuel becomes critical. Because fuel is not just energy. For a vehicle. It is access. Access to supplies. Access to safety. Access to information. Without it, your range shrinks immediately. Now here's the key shift. Mobility becomes control. If you can move, you can adapt. If you can't, you are limited to your immediate surroundings. And in unstable conditions, surroundings may not be enough. Now here's what increases value. Not just fuel itself, but the ability to use it when needed. Because availability becomes inconsistent. First, stations may be crowded. Supply may be delayed. Access may be uncertain. And uncertainty creates urgency. Now here's the deeper issue. People often underestimate fuel because they assume systems will keep replenishing it. But when logistics slow down, even briefly, local shortages appear quickly, not because fuel disappears entirely, but because distribution becomes uneven. Now here's the pattern. As instability increases, movement becomes more selective. People stop traveling casually. They only move when necessary. And that means fuel is no longer a convenience. It becomes a decision maker. Now here's the insight. If you have mobility when others don't, you have access to more options. And options are more valuable than money when conditions are uncertain, because money cannot transport you, but fuel can. Now here's where value shifts clearly. In stable systems, fuel is replaceable. In unstable systems, fuel becomes restrictive or enabling, and anything that determines whether you can move freely becomes more valuable than currency. Because in uncertain environments, being able to reach resources matters more than owning them on paper. Item 6. Clean shelter and safe space in normal life. Shelter is taken for granted. A house is just a place to live. Comfort, privacy, routine. You don't think about it as something you compete for, but when systems become unstable, shelter stops being just a building. It becomes protection. Now here's what changes. Safety is no longer assumed. People start thinking about Security of doors and entry points, environmental protection, heat, cold, rain, privacy and control of space, ability to stay undisturbed, and suddenly, shelter becomes one of the most important resources. Now here's the key shift. It's not just about having a place. It's about having a place that is reliable, under pressure because not all spaces provide the same level of safety. When systems are strained. Now here's what increases value. Spaces that are stable, secure, and manageable become far more important than money in the moment, because money cannot instantly create safety, but a secure environment can reduce immediate risk. Now here's the deeper issue. When uncertainty increases, people look for controlled environments. Places where they can reduce exposure to external problems, and that drives value toward shelter. Not luxury. Stability. Now here's the pattern. People underestimate shelter because they assume they will always have access to it. But in unstable conditions, access is not the issue. Suitability becomes the issue. Is it safe? Is it reliable? Can it be maintained? Now here's what happens. Spaces that offer even basic protection become more desirable, not because they are comfortable, but because they reduce vulnerability. Now here's the insight. Shelter is not just physical space. It is a buffer between you and uncertainty. And anything that reduces exposure to risk gains value quickly when conditions are unstable. Now here's where money loses influence. You can have money, but you cannot immediately convert it into a safe, stable environment when systems are strained. But if you already have that environment, you don't need to convert anything. You already have protection. And in unstable conditions, protection is worth more than purchasing power, because safety always comes before spending. Item 7. Skills that work without system. Skills are always valuable, but not all skills are equal. Some depend heavily on systems, tools, or technology. Others don't. And when systems become unstable, that difference becomes critical. Now here's what changes. Skills that rely on infrastructure lose consistency, but skills that work independently become more powerful. Things like basic repairability, food preparation without reliance on stores, navigation and awareness, problem solving under limited resources. These skills don't depend on external systems functioning perfectly. They depend on you. Now here's the key shift. In stable environments, skills are often convenience-based. They make life easier. But in unstable environments, skills become survival-based. They replace missing systems. Now here's what increases value. The ability to solve problems without needing outside support. Because when systems slow down or become unreliable, self-sufficiency becomes more important than money. Now here's the deeper issue. Money can buy services in normal conditions, but if services are delayed, limited, or unavailable, money loses speed, and speed matters. Now here's the pattern. People often underestimate practical skills because they assume modern systems will always be available. But when those systems weaken, skills become the fallback infrastructure. Now here's the insight. A skill is not just knowledge. It is independence in action. And independence is extremely valuable when external support is uncertain. Now consider this. If two people face the same problem, one waits for external help. The other solves it immediately with a skill. The second person gains time, control, and stability. And in unstable conditions, time is more valuable than money. Now, here's where the shift becomes clear. Skills reduce dependency, and reduced dependency increases options, because you are not waiting for systems to function. You are functioning independently. Now, here's the final understanding. Money can buy access, but skills create access when money is not enough. And that's why, under pressure, skills become more valuable than currency itself, because they cannot be taken away by system failure. They only improve with use. Item 8. Trust and reliable human connections. This is the most underestimated value shift of all, because it doesn't look like a resource. It doesn't feel like preparation. And it doesn't sit on a shelf or in an account. But when systems become unstable, it becomes one of the most important things you can have. Now here's why. Money depends on systems. Water depends on systems. Fuel, Food, information, all of it depends on functioning networks, but trust doesn't. Trust works between people directly, and when systems weaken, human networks become the fallback system. Now here's what changes. People stop relying on institutions. First, they start relying on each other. Who they know, who they can reach, who they can depend on. And that becomes critical. Now here's the key shift. In stable conditions, relationships are often social. In unstable conditions, relationships become functional. Not emotional only, but practical. Who can help you? Who can share information? Who can provide support without delay? That becomes the real value. Now here's the deeper issue. Money cannot guarantee cooperation in uncertain environments, but trust can, because trust reduces friction instantly. No negotiation delays, no uncertainty about response, no transactional barriers. Just action. Now here's the pattern. When systems are strong, people depend on infrastructure. When systems weaken, people depend on networks, and networks are built on trust. Now here's what increases value dramatically. People who are reliable under pressure, people who respond consistently, people who don't disappear when things become difficult. Because in unstable conditions, reliability becomes rare, and rarity creates value. Now here's the insight. Trust is not something you buy. It is something you build over time. And once it exists, it cannot be replaced quickly with money, because money can change resources, but it cannot instantly create loyalty or reliability. Now here's where everything comes together. All 8 items share one pattern. They all become more valuable than money when systems lose stability, because they do at least one of these things. Provide direct survival support, reduce uncertainty, increase control, replace system dependency. Enable action without delay, and trust does all of that at a human level. Now here's the final understanding. Money is powerful in structured systems, but in unstable conditions, structure weakens. And when structure weakens, human value shifts toward function, reliability, access control. That's when the hierarchy changes, and that's when people realize the most valuable things were never just about wealth. They were about what still works when money stops being enough.